I walked through the damp, foggy streets, my mind swirling. So much content, so many podcasts. How do I find the best? Then it hit me, like a big blue neon sign flashing through the mist. Blueberry. All I had to do was drop the E's and go to blueberry.com. Blueberry, the digital media interface for consumers, creators, and advertisers.
I was about to veer off. I'm pulling it back. Where there is injustice, we defend the oppressed. Where there is disagreement, we treat each other with compassion and respect.
Somehow you just know that someday, after January 20th, 2017, Barack Obama will finally get to say what's on his mind. If any of us are still here, that is, because, after all, these are the end times.
Daily Show, CNN, GOP is not your friend. Christian right sitting tight, making other folks fight. When that's hard, Huckabee, no thinking, ass thinking. Watch a Sharia law, even in Arkansas. Kill a Muslim or a Hindu, what's the difference? Make a deal, fuck you. This means we lose. Nominee, not for me. Why choose? Testament, alive. Offer me some respite. Offer me quietude. I decline. It's the end of all days as we know them. It's the end of all days as we know them. It's the end of all days as we know them. In these end times. These end times.
Welcome to today's episode of In These End Times, a sad podcast about these sad last days. I'm Bill Schmalfelt, your host, and we're going to take a departure from the way we have been doing things. The first thing is we're going to abandon the whole Grim Weeper shtick because, well, frankly, it makes my throat hurt. From now on, it's just me, Bill Schmalfelt, talking to you directly. Secondly, we begin with an editorial. For some reason, the conventional wisdom among my friends is that I should stay off Twitter. I'm too big of a target. People actually sit and monitor my Twitter timeline looking for things to mock me about. In the past, that would upset me, and I would launch off on some diatribe, and that would give them even more fuel, but things are different. And I can't even really say yet how they're different. I will be able to shortly, but I really can't say now why things are different. So, I love my friends, but I can no longer honor that request. For one thing, I do not care what the people who hate me have to say about me. And when they invade my Twitter timeline, and I know these are the same trolls who have made my life miserable for more than 2 years, I block them. I report them. And if Twitter does its job, it removes their accounts. Of course, especially puerile individuals like, well, they know who they are. They just create a new sock puppet account and they're back online within hours. Now listen, I need Twitter. I need it to make this podcast successful. It's not going to get the word out about itself. It needs a social media campaign, and there must be Twitter involved in that. I need to spread the word about this podcast and what the subject of the day is. My friends, because they are my friends, have refused to participate in my Twitter account. That is why I currently have 0 followers. Now, they seem to equate my not following their advice as not having respect for them, and they couldn't be more wrong. I love my friends, and their advice is usually good and it's always well-intentioned, but I intend to run my life according to my wishes, not at the whim of my enemies or at the good-intentioned demand of my friends. If my friends wish to show their disapproval of this decision by staying clear of my Twitter account because they fear the trolls will find me through them, too late. The trolls already know, which is why I took my account offline earlier today. But as soon as I'm done producing today's show, I will be back online on Twitter at End Times Tribune. That's at End Times Tribune. If you enjoy this podcast, I hope you'll subscribe to it, download it, and share your thoughts on Twitter and on our website, www.endtimestribune.com. That's www.endtimestribune.com. But I am not going to allow my life to be controlled by bullies, nor do my friends get to decide for me if and how I interact with the world. Clear? Good. Now, on with the show. John Zmirak, he's a conservative columnist and senior editor of James Robison's The Stream website, warned in a radio interview this week, as he did in a recent column, that Christians in America are on the verge of being violently persecuted like the Armenians were during the Armenian genocide, like the Jews were in Nazi Germany, or the Tutsis in Rwanda. Citing the case of an Indiana pizzeria that shut down after facing backlash after its owners said they wouldn't cater to gay people's wedding, and by the way, they've since received about $1 million in donations, Zmirak told Alaska's Joe Miller that, quote, "I think this vilification of faithful Christians could lead to violence in America. It's happened so many times before, and all the signs are there that the enemies of Christianity are seeing how much can we get away with," he said. He warned that within 5 years, quote, "we're going to see ourselves reduced to the status of second-class citizens, the way Christians are in countries like Egypt and Syria." If he ever attended one of our weekly liberal Illuminati meetings, he would know that our motto is live and let live, as emphasized by our most recent Glee Club performance. Yes, we have a Glee Club, believe it or not. Let me see if I've got that tape here. Okay, here we go.
We're gonna kill them all. Those people who oppose us, kill them all. 'Cause any office boy or young mechanic should never panic for being filled with gay pride. And any girl teen can be a lesbian when she learns she doesn't need a man. We're gonna kill them all, those wacky wingnuts, and we'll watch them fall. 'Cause everybody like Anderson Cooper, who lubes his pooper, deserves the same rights as all. Go out and try your luck, we don't care who you fuck. We're gonna kill them all. We're gonna kill them all. Those phony homophobes, watch them crawl. And bash their heads in with their walking sticks. All these self-righteous pricks who think that gays have no rights. We'll first berate them, then castrate them, and use their dried-out scrotums to store our tights. We're gonna kill them all, and then cut off their heads for bowling balls. And if you think that gays our nation worsens, tell God in person before you take that long fall. With all that time to pass, a pitchfork up your ass. We're gonna kill them all. We're gonna wipe them out. Those homophobic hypocrites who shout their vicious crap in which they give a voice that one is gay by choice. It's time to wipe them all out. It's kind of funny. They got paid money to spread their stupid bullshit, their lies to spout. It's time to make them die before they tell another vicious lie. These right-wing morons who go on TV to make the gays less free, and they think they're fooling us all. We'll make them scream and howl as we disembowel.
Oh, my intestines!
Oh, we're gonna kill them all. I really mean it. We're gonna kill. We're gonna kill. We're gonna kill them all.
Dawns on me that might have been the wrong tape. So as you heard at the beginning of the show today, Barack Obama really had them rolling in the aisles at the National Prayer Breakfast today, being Easter Monday. Or was that? No, that was yesterday was Easter Monday. This is Easter Tuesday. It's a brain damage. I lose track of time and stuff like that. And who did you say you were again?
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. Everybody have a seat. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, well, we give thanks for this day that the Lord has made. Good morning, everybody. On Easter, I do reflect on the fact that as a Christian, I am supposed to love. And I have to say that sometimes when I listen to less than loving expressions by Christians, I get concerned. But that's a topic for another day. Where there is injustice, I was about to veer off. I'm pulling it back. Where there is injustice, we defend the oppressed. Where there is disagreement, we treat each other with compassion and respect. Where there are differences, we find strength in our common humanity, knowing that we are all children of God.
I would wager that there is nobody in America or anywhere in the world more looking forward to January 20th, 2017 than Barack Hussein Obama. The shit that man has had to put up with over these last years, I'm ashamed. I'm actually ashamed at my fellow Americans, the way they've treated our president. Even when George Bush was president, George W. Bush, in his worst days, never had to put up with the sort of day-to-day nonsense that our current president has to put up with. It's shameful. It degrades us as a nation, and it lowers our esteem in the face of the rest of the world. It's just my opinion. Hard to believe that anybody would even want that job now. But we got two at least. Rand Paul threw his pointy little hat in the ring today.
Hello, this is Kentucky Senator Rand Paul, and I'm taking this opportunity to run for President of the United States. I'm like my father, Ron Paul, except I'm no quitter. every time we have one of these presidential elections, he would throw his tiny little hat into the ring, but nobody paid attention to him because his beliefs were so far out of the mainstream that nobody took him seriously. Well, guess what, America? Look who's mainstream now. Them Tea Party people what met in the town halls and held their rallies all over the country, they made me mainstream. You see, the thing of it is, they agree with me. They don't understand government, so they don't like it. And that's why when I am elected president, government's going to be one thing you don't got to worry about no more, not at all. First thing we're going to do is go back to the old Articles of Confederation, but we're going to call it the Constitution so we don't confuse anybody unnecessarily. Well, y'all know my philosophy by now. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, and if it is broke, throw it away. And that's what we're going to do with this here federal government. We just don't need a federal government. We got state governments. Look at the name of the country. In the Declaration of Independence, the country was legally named the United States of America. And they didn't even capitalize the word united because they didn't want a strong central government. We're spending way too much money doing things to keep people from killing themselves due to their own stupidity, and that's going to stop when I'm president. You're dumb enough to drink tainted milk or eat food with E. coli bacteria in it? Well, die. You're dumb enough to reach under your damn lawnmower while the blade is still turning? Die. You're stupid enough not to purify your own water? Die. You're too lazy to save for your own retirement? Die. You want to drink and drive? Well, that's your business. If you kill innocent people, you'll go to a state jail paid for by state taxes, not federal taxes. Them highways is in your state. You pay to fix them. Why should I have to pay for a damn highway in Rhode Island and I've never even been to Rhode Island? You want your kids educated? Educate them at home. Or pony up the cash to send them to private schools. FEMA? The Federal Emergency Management Agency? Forget about it. Hurricanes and tornadoes hit the same damn places year after year. What are you living there for? And earthquakes? Fix the damage yourself. We don't get no earthquakes in Kentucky. Move here if you don't want to be picking rubble out of your massive open head wound after an earthquake. Bottom line. If you can afford to pay for it, you can have it. Health care, a decent retirement, food on the table. If you can't afford to pay for it, why in the holy hell should I have to pay for it for you? And unlike these other so-called conservatives who want to keep a strong military presence all around the world, to hell with that. We need just enough military to protect our borders. So we'll cut the defense budget and line the Mexican border with military bases, concertina wire, landmines, and biological weapons to keep those filthy immigrants out of our country. And I will be your final president, America. Because after I'm done reshaping our federal government, there ain't going to be no federal government. So no need for a Congress or a Senate or a president even. Just a benevolent decider to act as referee in disputes between states. We leave everything else up to the people. The people in Mississippi want to reinstate slavery? That's their right. Vote for it. It's your state. The people in California want to hand out heroin to third graders? Groovy, dude. Vote for it. It's your state. The people in Iowa want to allow a certain amount of hog poop in their drinking water? Fine. It's your state. It's your water. Vote for it. Man wants to marry another man, a goat, a dog, a doorknob? I don't care. If your state says it's okay, then it's okay with President Rand Paul. So vote for me. And let's put all this federal government nonsense behind us once and for all.
And don't be too quick to count out Senator Rand Paul. by the time the 2016 Republican National Convention gets here, and all of the so-called moderate Republicans have been shown the door, it's going to be a battle between the conservatives. It's going to be who can out-Tea Party the Tea Party. And the convention is going to have to settle on someone.
So the Democrats put the crown on Hillary Clinton, and Bill stood in the wings watching and waiting. The Republicans weren't quite as filled with jubilation as the Democrats were when the delegates went filing into the convention center there in Cleveland that summer.
Air to Reagan. Air to Reagan. All we want is an heir to Reagan. All we have here is just a losing choice. No one to speak with, just a single voice. Where's our Gipper? Bring back the Gipper. Who can be that heir to Reagan? Heir to Reagan. Heir to Reagan.
Yep, it was a bunch of sad critters, all right. Well, they went through about 10, I think 15 maybe, ballots, and couldn't find anybody to get a majority. And then, as will sometimes happen, somebody you weren't even thinking of come crawling out of the woodwork.
A clear superior nominee is someone like Rand Paul, a libertarian option who would satisfy us all. He'll keep us out of the foreign wars and build a border wall. He'll be our president. What a president. I support Rand Paul. He understands the government, can see to every need. He'll do away with the Fed and legalize our favorite weed. To all America's enemies, he'll never bow and plead. We'll mind our business and stick to business, Rand Paul, that we need. I place in the nomination our Rand Paul, a man who can't ignore his nation's call. He understands that our founders made way clear what they meant. They saw no need for central government. A son of Kentucky, please vote for Rand Paul. He has the slightest charming southern drawl. He'll reinstate the gold standard, shut down Capitol Hill. As President, Rand Paul will do our will. Let's choose Rand Paul and send him on his way to landslide victory on Election Day. No more U.S. intrusion, no more Fed confusion, no more foreign fights. He don't care if you're black or white. He'll let the local folks decide their fates. He knows this nation is United States. There's no pot prohibition, all on one condition. You gotta vote for Rand Paul.
But what about God?
In favor of God.
Jesus Christ too.
Likes Jesus too.
They support prayer in school.
If that's what the states want.
And what about gays?
The states will pray.
And what about strays?
It's up to the states.
It sounds like you're saying
the states will have the power. Right. Who needs a central government? Who wants a central government? You'll do away with those who say it's from your pockets. We should pay for roads and bridges. People are not fools. He'll shut down federal funding for the schools. In public, there'll be prayer. Won't fleece the taxpayer. Clean your food and water. Do it local like you oughter. If you want to breathe polluted air, well, that's your choice. We really could not care. He'll stay out of your business with God as my witness. Really should vote for Rand Paul.
But what about guns?
He loves him some guns.
And our civil rights.
That's up to the whites.
Because after all,
we are still majority. so slavery's cool.
If that's your state's rule,
if we segregate,
that's up to your state.
It's not DC's job to legislate morality. He's starting to sound just like a president, a great American president. We'll back Ron Paul up to the wall and heed his call. So come on all and get in line and nominate Rand Paul, a man who heard and answered heaven's call. He knows our blessed nation's in need of salvation. He will not negotiate with those who would deny each state the right to make and live by their own rules. To plan and legislate was taught in schools. It's Rand Paul that we favor. He's our nation's savior. Everyone in favor say aye. Aye!
What else do we have for you here? Okay, what would In These End Times episode be without our daily report from the president of the American Family Association, the ambiguously gay Brian Fisher?
Let's go to David in Tyler, Texas. David, Tyler, Texas, welcome. What's on your mind?
Hey, Brian, happy Easter.
Happy Easter to you, sir.
Well, what a blessing God has given us through his mercy. Hey, I'm calling because, Brian, you know, we do love all people regardless of their behavior.
Absolutely.
And we are trying to warn them of the consequences. I'm a physician, and I care about my patients. That's why I tell the people who are drinking too much that there will be consequences for their behavioral choices. I tell people who smoke there will be consequences for your behavioral choices. And you have warned repeatedly, Brian, that there are consequences for homosexual behavior because of the health problems associated. And, you know, I think one of these days some smart group of lawyers is going to get a couple of guys with AIDS, and they're going to sue the people that are promulgating the lie that a behavior, a choice, is good, because all it does is it increases their risk to disease, illness, and suffering. And, you know, if a group of smokers were to come into my office and say, you know, Dr. Johnson, you just hate smokers, and we're going to sue you and shut you down, or we're going to kill you, or we're going to burn your office down, because our behavior, we want you to embrace our behavior, and you need to tell every one of your patients to smoke. That's exactly what's going on in Indiana. Thanks, Brian.
All right, listen, I appreciate the call very much. Thank you for that, David. You know, and David makes a fascinating point there. Hadn't really thought about it from this angle before, but he's a doctor, he's a physician, so he warns his patients about overconsumption of alcohol, warns his patients about smoking cigarettes, warns them about other health risks that they may be taking. You know, and ask yourself this question: what if instead of warning these patients, if this doctor, an alcoholic, comes in, somebody who has an obesity problem from overconsumption comes into his office, somebody who's got a smoking problem, maybe on the verge of lung cancer, comes in, and instead of warning them, what the doctor says to them, look, go ahead and indulge. It's fine. Knock yourself out. Overconsumption of alcohol is the moral equivalent of drinking too much iced tea. There's no difference between those two things. One is the same as the other. So feel free, knock yourself out. And as far as smoking is concerned, there are no more health risks involved with cigarette smoking than chewing bubble gum. Knock yourself out. They're morally equivalent behaviors. What if he told his patients that? So they went out and they overconsumed alcohol, and they died of cirrhosis of the liver. They went out and they consumed cigarettes willy-nilly, and they died of lung cancer. This doctor would get sued for every penny that he has for medical malpractice, for failing to warn his patients about the hazards. And his point is, the day may come when some homosexual who is dying of HIV/AIDS goes to the activist groups that told him, look, this is just the moral equivalent of heterosexuality. When is he going to go them and sue them for every penny they have for shortening his life with bad medical advice? That day may come.
You know, if you were to follow a busy doctor as he makes his daily round of calls, you'd find yourself having a mighty busy time keeping up with him. Time out for many men of medicine usually means just long enough to enjoy a cigarette. And because they know what a pleasure it is to smoke a mild, good-tasting cigarette, they're particular about the brand they choose. In a repeated national survey, doctors in all branches of medicine, doctors in all parts of the country were asked, "What cigarette do you smoke, doctor?" Once again, the brand named most was Camel. Yes, according to this repeated nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. Why not change to Camels for the next 30 days and see what a difference it makes in your smoking enjoyment? See how Camels agree with your throat. See how mild and good-tasting a cigarette can be.
Listen, cigarette smokers, did you ever think of this before? Chesterfield is the only cigarette in the country which gives you 1, proof of highest quality. 2, proof of no adverse effects to the nose, throat, and sinuses. Now, this proof comes from the latest report, just received, covering a full 16 months. And it comes from a doctor who's been examining a group of Chesterfield smokers as part of a program supervised by a responsible, independent research laboratory. Now, after a full year and 4 months, the doctor reports again no adverse effects to the nose, throat, or sinuses from smoking Chesterfields. Now, don't you want to try a cigarette with a record like this? Chesterfield.
The doctor's report. From coast to coast, doctors in every was Camel. Yes, according to this nationwide survey, more doctors smoke Camels than any other cigarette. You can prove Camel mildness for yourself. Smoke only Camels for 30 days. Compare them in your T-zone. T for throat, T for taste. See if you don't agree Camels are the mildest, best-tasting cigarette you ever smoked. Make a note. Remember your throat. Try Camels today.
And you know what else doctors used to think was a good idea? Putting leeches on your skin and listening to former Texas Representative Tom DeLay, preferably at the same time.
Well, this is the result of the gay agenda. We're now seeing what the gay agenda is all about. Our religious liberty, as you know, Steve, is the bedrock of our country, as it's described in the Declaration of Independence, that we get our rights from the Creator, somebody bigger than us, and from that we get truth, with the values by which we live, and from that we are good people that can govern through the Constitution. Religious liberty is the foundation of this country, and what they're trying to do is to undermine religious liberty so that they become an accepted sexual orientation. That's what's going on here, and we have got to fight this battle to the bitter end, because once you let the government dictate to you what you believe and what your values are, then this country's finished.
Yeah, and what do you do? I mean, I thought that was a good example given by Rick Santorum. I don't think anybody would think, or that a gay business owner who makes signs should be forced to make those signs. I mean, I'd be right behind them if they said absolutely not. Go to another store.
That's exactly right. This isn't about discrimination. We love people that have chosen to be homosexuals. The problem is we abhor the sin. So yes, when I have a business and some gay person walks in, unidentified by the way, there's no way you can tell it unless he tells you, then I'm going to serve him. But if he comes in and asks me to undermine my values, what I believe in, undermine my religious liberty, then I have the right to stand up for what I believe in and not serve him. It's not discrimination. It's the government telling us how we are to act, what we are to believe, and that has got to be fought with every ounce of our being.
And when did he get out of jail again? And why? Discrimination for thee, but not for me, apparently seems to be the go word for the conservatives today. I tell you what, try that shit on an interracial couple. Tell them you're not going to deliver a cake to their wedding because it violates your religious beliefs. Tell a Jewish person who wants to marry a Christian in a Jewish synagogue that you can't do it because it violates your religious beliefs. It seems the only class of people this applies to is the gays. My, what a hateful God these people believe in.
When he rolls up his sleeves, he ain't taking any shit. Our God is a badass God. He's picking up the sinners to crush them in his fist. Our God is a mean old God. And the Lord wasn't kidding when he kicked us out of Eden, and it wasn't for no reason that he'll shed your blood. His return is very close, so you better be believing our God is a pissed off God. Our God is a pissed off God. He scowls from heaven above with anger, vengeance, and wrath. Our God is a pissed off God. Our God is a pissed off God. He scowls from heaven above with anger, vengeance, and wrath. Our God is a pissed off God. And when you disobey him and ignore what he said, our God is a big bad God. He will stomp on your cities until everybody's dead. Our God is a hateful God. Judgment and wrath, he's got that in bushels. Mercy and grace is for weaklings and fools. I hope that you have not too quickly forgotten our God is a pissed off God. Our God is a pissed off God. He scowls from heaven above with anger, vengeance, and wrath. Our God is a pissed off God. Our God is a pissed off God. He scowls from heaven above with anger, vengeance, and wrath. Our God is a pissed off God. Our God is a pissed off God. He scowls from heaven above with anger, vengeance, and wrath. Our God is a pissed off God. Our God is a pissed off God. He scowls from heaven above with anger, vengeance, and wrath. Our God is a pissed off God. Our God is a pissed off God. He scowls from heaven above with anger, vengeance, and wrath. Our God is a pissed off God. Our God is a pissed off God. Our God is a pissed off God.
I feel very, very sad for you. God is a concept that is worthy of belief, but he is not what so many people who claim themselves Christians believe him to be. He's not the angry grandpa who's waiting to send us all to our rooms without supper for eternity. Got it? I hope so, because these are the end times.
Daily Show, CNN, GOP is not your friend. Christian right sitting tight, making other folks fight. When this heart Huckabee, no thinking, ass thinking, watch a Sharia law, even in Arkansas. Kill a Muslim or a Hindu, what's the difference? Make a deal, fuck you. Uh-oh, this means we lose. Nominee, not for me. Why choose? Testament the lies. Offer me some respite. Offer me quietude. I decline. It's the end of all days as we know them. It's the end of all days as we know them. It's the end of all days as we know them. In these end times. These end times.
In these end times is a copyright production of yours truly, Bill Schmalfelt, and the End Times Tribune 2015, all rights reserved. Drop by the website, endtimestribune.com. That's endtimestribune.com. And by the time you're hearing this, End Times Tribune will be back on Twitter at End Times Tribune. Be nice to each other. Remember, Santa's still watching.
This podcast is part of the Blueberry Network. Blueberry.com is where listeners and podcasters come together. Check it out at blueberrywithnoease.com.